Hi, this is Jen from UXPA. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for the User Experience Professionals Association, and we're busy prepping for our upcoming annual conference taking place June 22 to 25 in San Diego, California. And we have a great lineup of courses, keynotes, talks, panel discussions, posters, speed networking, and parties. We have a lot going on this year. And today I'm talking to Peter Hughes, who will be teaching one of the courses. Hi, Peter.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. How are you doing today?
Another busy day, but nice to be here speaking with you about the conference.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for joining us. Where are you joining us from?
New York City today. Cloudy New York City. But it has been beautiful.
Well, thank you again. I thought we could start off by you sharing a little bit about your background and the path that got you to where you are, your path into UX, and maybe share a little bit about what you're up to these days.
Yeah, so I started my life thinking I wanted to be an inventor and selling ideas. And it freaked my parents out that I didn't want to go to college. I just thought I could go straight from school and sort of like bust out all these ideas that I had at the time. But eventually I was persuaded that engineering school might be a good fit and, a safer path. And I took that advice and found out very quickly that I was not cut out to be, as I was training then, to be a mechanical engineer. And so I thought, well, I'll take the next step and go to business school and focus on the sort of the selling and the marketing of ideas and inventions and so on. And finished with a marketing degree and went straight into the tech world, working for software development companies, and still not feeling in my bones that I'd really hit my stride, but at least I was in the tech space and I was dealing with interesting things. But then I did have a transformative moment when I went to, and this is, we're talking mid-90s, to an equivalent of a meetup, or it was some industry function. And I met my first usability consultant. I'd never heard of usability consulting. UX wasn't a word that was used in those days. And I was just fascinated. I mean, we talked for hours, and it was you'd think we were at a matchmaking event or something. I mean, it just sort of clicked, and as a result, I switched jobs. I ended up working for this gentleman as his sort of assistant to begin with, and I was making a career change at about 30 years old. Mm-hmm. And my path had sort of meandered. And as I say, I just knew I was doing what I really was cut out to do. Mm-hmm. Spend time with people, understanding their ideas, helping them refine their ideas. I went back and did a postgraduate degree in design. I subsequently met my business partner and I was working in Australia. Mm-hmm. He was an American chap who was out there to help set up a consultancy. We worked together, and I came into his company specifically to set up web usability, a web usability practice within their organization, which was fundamentally spending most of their time on Unix and mainframe based interfaces. Mm-hmm. Sort of dates me a bit. Mm-hmm. But things just took off. I mean, in the space of 1 year, that whole consultancy went from being almost nothing browser-based to almost 100% browser-based mm-hmm. projects. Mm-hmm. We were excited about that. We wanted to come back to America. I always wanted to come to America. Mm-hmm. So we're talking 98, and we came back. We came over. We started a consultancy, UX consultancy, and I mean, it was just crazy times, as we all know, pre-internet bubble. Mm-hmm. Which turned out to be fortuitous timing for us in starting our business. And So for the last 15 years, or 16 years, I ran the research team in that organization.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just had a point in my own sort of career where I felt, I've got all this knowledge, and I was actually starting to get a bug for teaching
Mm-hmm.
and communicating the knowledge that I had picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what manifested in me selling basically selling my part of the business, and using that money to start my second startup here in the States, which is a business where I'm teaching corporations and startups about usability testing in the many stripes and colors that it comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about that a little bit later as to what I'm currently doing. But so it's been my path, which as you can see, it's touched engineering, it's touched business. I've made my living conducting many thousands of hours of interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, now I'm really trying to take that knowledge and work with organizations and with people to spread that knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
Into the wider community, into corporations, and to help startups not waste their time,
Mm-hmm.
as the saying goes, build things that people don't want to buy or use.
Right. Excellent. Well, it sounds like we're pretty lucky to have you teaching a course then, with all of your experience and, with your goals of sharing that with the world at large. It'll be exciting to have you at the conference this year teaching one of the courses.
Well, believe me, I'm looking forward to it. One of the beautiful things about teaching and coaching people in these skills is that you get exposure to a lot of projects, and you get to sort of really see what people are doing, and the variety is, I just find it endlessly fascinating. And again, I do have some other things I do want to talk about later, but I hope that will be demonstrated.
Great. So, you took a I don't want to say long path, but a windy path, right? Touching on different things to get to where you are today. Do you have any words of advice for budding UXers? People often ask, how do I get into the field? How do I get experience when I don't already have experience? What words of advice do you have for people who want to get into the field?
Well, I think that one of the big issues that we have in our industry, and I'm talking more broadly about the UX world, is that there aren't really that many standard definitions for things. And if you say you're a designer, people will often say, "Oh, you're a visual designer," or "You are, I'm a UXer," and then you talk about what they do in their work, and particularly, of course, I'm interested in what sort of research they do. Mm-hmm. And when they say, "Oh, well, we often don't have time, to do research," I sort of feel, well, again, these job descriptions are not very clear. So I'm going to focus not so much on what you call things, but on just some of the things that you can do, mm-hmm. because I think that that there are so many ways that you can become part of a design team, so many roles and ways you can join an organization. But I think that one of the great things about testing is that if you're cut out, your personality is sort of one that's a good fit. There are some relatively simple skills that you can begin with to start to test the work that you and your colleagues are doing. Mm-hmm. And I just find everywhere I go that, people can get into all kinds of arguments about whether one interface is better than another. Mm-hmm. But what is hard to do is to argue when you're actually watching people use the products or ideas, and just seeing their reactions, engaging. And so if your heart is set in getting into the industry, first I think you've got to get your foot in the door, and in many ways that's the sort of the easier thing to do, even if what we're talking about is not strictly the job description. If it's not a job description that sounds perfect, get into the organization and make a big effort to get involved in testing ideas. And I've just come back from a meeting where people were very worried about jargon and so on. And it's like, don't need to talk about jargon, just simply, does an idea work? And I think in this way, you start to become a value add to your organization, because when you finally get to the point where you can test something, you will find that people will take up and take notice. I mean, you don't want to obviously put people offside and so on, but really there is an opportunity to, there are very few places that do testing. That's what I'm finding. So, there is a big opportunity, but you've got to get your foot in the door first.
Sure.
I don't know if that answered your question specifically, so. But it's more of a tactic, I would say.
Yeah.
If you're interested in the UX research space.
Yeah. Well, and I like that approach, because it's like, get your foot in the door and show it, right? It's not just
Absolutely.
Seeing if you can fit a job description, or it's not all talk, right? Like, just show it. Show the value of research, of putting the product in the hands of users, and then you'll win people over, and you'll be able to get into the group or the organization or the field. Yeah.
I think you've summarized it exactly as I intended to communicate it. And see, the other thing is as well, I teach at General Assembly, and I've just recently been working on them to refresh their UXDI immersive course, which is I think it's now a 12-week course. And I've done a lot of portfolio reviews and got to know quite a few of the students going through their programs. And the thing that I would highly encourage people to do that are going through those programs and putting their portfolios together is tell a story in your portfolio. It's not about, a lot of time is spent on the visual aspects, which of course I understand people want a good looking portfolio, but in order to, again, get your foot in the door and to bring value to the organization, I think to be able to talk through your process, illustrate how your process is executed, and to give examples in your portfolio of things that you've done and learned, even if something didn't work out quite as expected. That's perfectly okay, because rarely do things work out perfectly the first time anyway. So and I think it's one way of building your credibility to potential employers, typically heads of design or senior managers and so on, who'll be interviewing you. So and I have some guidelines that I've put out there, which I can make available as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so let's turn to your course. Maybe you can give us a sneak peek of your course. So it's called Fundamentals of Successful Usability Testing for Mobile Apps and Websites in Progress. This is in the Tools and Techniques track, and it's taking place on Monday, June 22nd. It's a full-day course from 9 to 5. So tell us a little bit about this course and why we should all attend. Maybe not all. You'll have an overflowing room.
But for those that are beginning their journey, or who have maybe done a little bit of usability testing. And the thing is, it sounds so simple. You get a thing, you put it in front of potential users or actual users, get them to use it in some way, give them some tasks and watch what happens. Simple. I mean, it sounds so simple. Mm-hmm. And, the concept is, which is, I think, the beauty of it. But I think it also it hides a lot of practice, because you just imagine, you just know yourself if you are thrown into a room of people you've never met before. I mean, a room full might be daunting, but even if you're forced to meet people, which inevitably you end up doing in usability testing, a lot of people clam up. I've seen, because I coach people in how to do this, and interview technique is part of it. I often see that people get a bit nervous, and so what I've tried to do is demystify what goes into a usability test, and to think of it as a paint by numbers approach, where the danger with paint by numbers is that paintings kind of look the same. But if you've never painted before, I suggest it's a way to build some confidence by following a basic path. And then as you build confidence and start to see where your talents lie, that you can then continue working on your skills, but at least to do so from a solid platform. And so that's one of the sort of the core reasons for putting together the workshop, is to give people confidence and to feel that there is some hand-holding that's going to occur over the course of a day. I did change the workshop. Originally, I thought I don't want people getting distracted by just doing the projects or the exercises that I set, because sometimes they don't always relate to what people are doing. And so I've changed it recently, and this is what I'll be doing at the conference, is strongly encouraging participants to bring their projects into the classroom.
Oh, great.
So when we talk about setting goals for the project, what are we going to test? They can think about their project, which they'll be most familiar with, and I can review their goals with them, and they can share them with other participants in the class to see how they react to the goals and whether they're clear. And so there'll be a lot of sort of peer review that will go on in the workshop. So whether it's setting goals, whether it's writing scenarios and tasks, interviewing. I mean, it will be self-contained within the workshop, and the idea is that you will leave with some tasks that are appropriate for the particular project that you're working on. So when you go back to work, or you will have materials that you can use immediately.
Wonderful.
So whether it's recruiting requirements, how you might do the recruiting, tech setups, a little bit of interview practice, recording observations, writing, again, simple reports, because what we're trying to do is demystify and make this a very practical, pragmatic is really the sort of the key element. Building confidence and being pragmatic, so that we can get up to speed quickly.
Excellent. Sounds great. It sounds very useful, very applied. I love that you're encouraging people to bring their own projects, and that there are these things that they'll be doing in the course, they can go out and use them right away in practice. That's excellent.
A thing that I have also put to the UXPA, and I don't know if this yet been included because we've only just had the conversation, but I'm also going to be available for 1 hour one-on-one coaching, with people that attend.
Yeah.
We've limited the class to 20 people. So, get in quick.
Yeah.
But the idea is, and this always happens again when I coach and mentor people, you've been to a class, you know this yourself, actually. I'm sure you've been to a class or a conference and, you pick up skills that you're excited to use. And then there's shock horror, things that you didn't ask or didn't know to ask, and things you've got to sort of figure out. So being available to help, answer those questions and do a one-on-one private Q&A afterwards, I hope will, again, just help people get that confidence and get them going.
Excellent. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
All right. Well, we're just about wrapping up here, but is there anything else that you want to share before we part ways? Anything about UX, about your company, and anything at all that you want to share with us?
Yes, I mean, just briefly, Ascest is focused on helping organizations bring UX research skills into their organization. For example, I was just this morning working with one of the major banks. They just have an enormous amount of work that they're doing, and I understand from them that they've never done usability testing. So they're building all this stuff and wondering why some users are pulling their hair out. And so it's very exciting. We literally just kicked off today with a program for demonstrating the value. So, if your organization is thinking about doing UX or bringing it in or doing more of it, and you're looking for a plan, that is absolutely what we do at Ascest. And just for the fun of it, yesterday I'm part of a meetup group here in New York where we are looking at Apple Watches and wearables, and had our first meeting. And so it was, I'm excited to say that I did my first usability test of a Apple Watch concept. Cool. On Sunday, as it happened. Found a few users, and we invented a little app that we wanted to try out. And of course, there are hundreds of questions that we all have about what works, what doesn't, how to do things. The standards aren't established. So that's been very fun, and we're continuing to do that. And we'll be doing a presentation May 5th at General Assembly for those that are in New York and want to learn more about testing Apple Watches. Excellent.
Great. Well,
and of course, I'm looking forward to meeting the participants and being part of the conference in San Diego.
Yes, absolutely. We are looking forward to it too. I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
Likewise.
Well, thank you again. Thanks for joining us today and for chatting with us. And I look forward to seeing you in just a couple months in San Diego.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Jennifer.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.